What's up, guys? It's me, Jed the Gamer, and this is episode... Wait, what number is it at this point? It's episode number 9 of the Mana and Artifice playthrough. So, if you guys can look... you guys can see this little staff I have in my offhand. This is the Staff of the Pilgrim. So, in order to craft this, it's a very interesting item. You have to have boots, Vintium, chalk, kelp, and some variety of staff. This is the one that I used, the cheapest one. There also are, like, let's see, I believe there's a Chimrite one as well, yeah. But, you know, it's up to you if you want to make your staff more expensive or not. And the benefits that this thing has, let's see, I'll just take that off, is that it makes it so that you have an increased run speed and jump speed. All those golems are trying to attack this one little pixie up here. I can't attack that one little pixie up here. Okay. Wow, that was ridiculous. Either way, yeah, so this Staff of the Pilgrim, it gives you additional, like, movement bonuses, which I'm thinking at some point I'm going to create an optimized set of the living armor dedicated towards health and, like, experience gain or something like that. And then when I make that, I will have this Staff of the Pilgrim be my main movement bonus. But at this point, I'm, like, super high jumping. It's ridiculous. Another thing I did make was this. It's the not Mana Weaving Altar. It's the Book of Rote. Requires some vellum, some mundane rings, some string, as well as an Arcanist ink, as well as all these symbols. You get the Book of Rote. Now, the way that the Book of Rote works is that if you open up your Oculus and you go under Sorcery, you can see what spells you have the green bar completely filled up on. So right now I've got Break, Fling, Self, Light, Touch, and that's it, completely filled up with that bar. And if you look, we have Self, Touch, Break, Fling, and Light. All of those components I can use interchangeably, like I could, and I can also apply multiple of them onto a single spell. Now, this is a very interesting thing because it means that after you master a single thing, you can just use the Book of Rote to interchangeably create that spell. However, there's now a very interesting mechanic going on that I think may, like, be close to in power the Book of Rote. Now, for those of you who have historically used this mod, you may be, like, rolling your eyes, but you guys don't understand. I have an Earth Affinity. This is the Fling spell. My Earth Affinity just went even higher. Now, for those of you who did not hear me talking about Affinity last time, Affinity is when you cast a spell of a certain type. And when you cast a spell, it will increase your affinity towards that type. And opposite affinities will, in turn, have a decreasing effect to each other. So, for example, if you have a Wind Affinity, when you're casting an Earth spell, the Earth spell will be more expensive, and vice versa. So right now, I have a Earth and Air Affinity, which means that at this point, my Earth spells are more positively affected, but they're have slight negative effects. But when I cast Earth spells, there's a slight positive effect and a very big negative effect. However, I was able to deal with quite a bit of that by using this Eldrin Fume Altar. So what I did is I created some Earth motes and put them in this top slot here. Put something I could smelt, in this case, oak logs. And then I clicked that little button there. And then it started destroying the motes and giving me Eldrin Wellspring energy. So at this point, I have 142 Earth Affinity power. You can then take a spell, assuming that's not already Earth Affinity. I think I've turned all of my spells to the Earth Affinity, actually. Yeah, all my spells right now are the Earth Affinity. But you go into this Affinity Tinker table. You select the affinity you want to select it to. I have no idea what these two things are. I assume that this is Frost and that Electricity. I'm not sure how these work. Either way, so you select your affinity, you put the spell in, and then you click the arrow. Right now it wouldn't do anything, but it'd still spend the resources, so I'm not going to do it. And then after a little bit of time, this chain fills up, and then the affinity of the spell itself is changed. However, in order to access those Eldrin energy, you have to have a conduit nearby. This is the recipe for the Fume Altar, the Affinity Tinker table, just 2 of the same modes, as well as transmuted silver in a basic table. And these lesser Eldrin conduits require stick, Chimrite, and the respective mote. And with all that stuff, you can make all of your non-rote spells. I've tested with the Book of Rote. here's the Book of Rote. It's selected on the fling spell. I can't put it in here. Like, I cannot click it in. So you can't change your Rote affinity, but you can change the affinity of your normal spells. I'd say that this rivals the ability to create spells at will, because you can just create a handful of spells that you really like, and then just slap them to the correct affinity, and then all of your spells are suddenly very cheap, instead of having to alternate between, say, how many spells does this book have? Like, a lot, and having to alternate between all of these spells with different affinities that are more than likely conflicting in one way or another. So I find this to be a very good change to the mod, and it does provide a viable alternative to the Book of Rote, which previously it just was like, oh, you just use a spell until it becomes Rote, and then you don't need to use the original spell at all anymore. The possible exception being the fling spell, because there is actually a slow fall component in here. Yeah, right here. And since you can apply multiple components in a row, you could put slow fall after that, so then you have the fling effect, but then you also fall slowly to the ground. However, that's not what I'm covering today. Today, I'm covering projectile and fire damage. That's right, guys, I'm shooting fireballs. Oh yeah, and I guess I should mention, I made another thing. It's the Urn of the Mountain Stream. It is a infinite water bucket. It's so weird, but I love it. The recipe for it is a moat of water, which is created in the Ritual of the Deep Ocean, which is fish, seagrass, sea pickle, as well as sand on a ocean biome. You combine that moat with the brimming urn, which is crafted like so, and then you have an infinite water bucket, which I am definitely going to be exploiting at some point. Infinite water, guys. Infinite water at the tip of my hands that I can just, like, use everywhere. Whoa! Did I just lose the thing? Okay, good. Look, so you can shit. What? Wait. Oh my gosh, you can use this as an infinite water source. Dispensers just became a lot more powerful. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, I just had a thought. Oh, it doesn't work. Wait, but does this work? Haha! Aha! Aha, take that, Nether. We have infinite water inside the Nether now. Picking this up and heading back home, because I do not like that. Nether, those guys steal items. You better not steal this from me. Okay, thankfully the game let me leave with my infinite water supply. Oh yeah, and you can store this in your back curio slot. With that out of the way, I am going to start working on the fireball spell. I've already gathered the snowballs needed for this, so I'm going to continue gathering the remainder of these materials, and then I'll be right back. Okay guys, I got everything gathered up, and now I'm starting up the ritual. Let's put down our purified Ventium dust here, and we're going to be making a projectile fireball spell. Here we go. We have a projectile fire damage spell, so this is good. This isn't going to be a phenomenal spell on its own. So this is a little fireball, and when shot, it creates a little bit of fire. But if it hits a person, like this sparkling, it kills them. It's simple. It can also be used to get rid of extra items you do not care about in the middle of things. Because it's a projectile, it has essentially unlimited range, so I could launch it all the way at that tree over there if I had good enough aim. Unlike touch spells, which have a range limit of like 3 blocks or so. However, you guys may notice, this only does 5 damage, which, while pretty good, is hardly amazing, and it sets people on fire for 3 seconds. Well, how can we improve this, you may ask? Well, if you guys have been paying attention to the Oculus, we have the Ritual of Alteration, which adds a modifier to a spell. Well, you may ask, what is a modifier? Well, if we go back to this menu here, you can see that we have these 4 things at the bottom. These 4 things are the speed of the spell, the damage of the spell, the delay of the spell, which I don't really care about, and the range of the spell. Range has more effect on touch components, because if we go to the touch component, you can now increase how far you can touch things from, which you can increase it to like 16 blocks, which makes it without delay effect. However, for this spell here, the only three that we really care about are speed, damage, and delay. Delay makes it so that the spell will take a bit for the effect to take place. So for example, if I had the delay of 1 second, then it means that this fire effect will happen 1 second after the projectile hits somebody. Not very useful for a spell where you're trying to hurt people and kill them. The speed thing says how fast the projectile itself moves. You may see that the fling spell also has this effect. When used on fling, it's actually like really phenomenal, because that means that the fling spell will move further. And the damage component, the one that we're actually going to be messing with, means that your spell does even more damage. As you can see, we can get all the way up to 8 before our complexity becomes too high. Your complexity increases every tier. However, you also can, say, create the spell at the complexity of 4. Oh, you also can decrease flexibility to be damage to be super low, but that's not what you want to do with a spell. Most of the time, I don't know, you may want to like hurt things down to half a heart before you punch them to death or something like that. I don't know what you guys are doing with your magic. Either way, as you can see, we can add this damage effect. However, we'd have to create this whole spell over again and also make more vellum. I've been putting that off intentionally. Or we could perform the Ritual of Alteration, which says that it adds a modifier to a spell. If we look in the book, the Ritual of Alteration this ritual is used to add modifiers to a spell you already have. You first have to craft the spell, and then you can select a modifier, and then you add it using the ritual. So let's look at this book recipe here. It requires 2 leather, and vellum, as well as red dye, infused thread, and vintium dust. Wait. What? This is like the worst infinite thing ever. It can't be poured directly into a cauldron. Set it down, right click, put it into there. That's like 3 steps. I'm not a fan of this! But it is still infinite water that we can access in the nether. Doesn't make that any less annoying though. So infused thread is pretty simple. You add vintium dust to a infused silk, as well as that symbol there. Infused silk, vintium dust, that thing, infused thread. Now we add 2 vellum, 2 leather, red dye. Thank you for getting out of the way. And now we draw these symbols here, after we've added all these ingredients to the mana weaving altar. Okay, these villagers are really getting on my nerves. So now we have our book, and we can click Z, and let's just select the damage component. Now we have to draw out the ritual itself. So this takes up a 5x5 area, and we need to put down the spell as well as the Book of Alteration. Like so, we put down the spell, and now we put down the book. And it apparently is direction sensitive, so that's annoying. That could probably be fixed. And now you guys see the ritual is saying, hey, you need to get the following additional ingredients in order to complete this ritual. We need to get 4 swords, as well as those 3 materials there. Oh, 5 swords actually. Now, if you compare this to the ingredient list for the spell here, as compared to the spell with the damage component attached to it, you will notice that it actually is the same exact thing. So the main difference between using the Ritual of Alteration means that you don't have to create a new spell. However, creating a spell from scratch, I probably should have added the damage component initially, but I wanted to show how to do this ritual. And now a bunch of swords. Diamond sword, gold sword, iron sword, cobble sword, wooden sword, magic sword. Wait a minute. And we add all of these swords into the ritual, like so. And now we put down this here. Oh, I forgot to put down the wooden one. And then we perform this ritual now, and then I can show you what it is like to have a modified spell. Oh, never mind. No symbols needed. You get the book back, thankfully. Now I have a fireball spell with the damage component. Now you guys can see I can adjust the damage right now. So I'm going to increase the complexity, the damage until the complexity gets too high. Now I have 8 damage instead of 5. And for demonstration purposes, I'm going to demonstrate changing the affinity of the spell to Earth Affinity. slap the spell in, select Earth Affinity, click the arrow. As you guys can see, it is decreasing the Eldrin energy I have, but now it has stopped draining. And now, boom, I have Fireball, except it has Earth Affinity. And it still does the same exact effect, just the affinity is now Earth. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video today. I suppose that in some ways it's like poetry. It rhymes. It came full circle. Either way, I hope you guys have a very good day, and I will see you guys next week.